call this meeting to order of the Clarksburg School Committee at 5:07 p.m. on August 8th, 2019. Just like to officially welcome Eric. I think this is his first actual meeting. So welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Happy to be here.
And then we also have Jen Maxey with us. That's the business manager. You've been to a
Nope, this is my first official one with you. Thank you.
Glad you're filling the crowd for us.
Yeah.
Yes.
As you can see, it's kind of sparse.
Speak to
But
someone.
yeah,
It is exciting. It is nice to have a full-time person too. I know
Oh,
last
yeah.
summer for most of the time that I was, in my first month or two, it was me and Rhonda for the most part last summer, so it's nice to have Jen there and also Vicki there as well, since
Yeah.
we changed her agreement, so that was making a big difference in the work we're able to get done during the summer.
Yeah,
that's great.
we're glad to have you.
And actually, I should make a mention that Rhonda is going to talk about her extending her hours with doing the minutes for Clarksburg and Savoy and the MBSU meetings, and we're going to look into those too. But so we'll talk about we'll talk about that different meeting, but we increased her hours or her salary about her hours last spring, so we need to talk about her schedule too, but not at this meeting.
Okay. So shall we go ahead to the minutes? We don't usually
Yeah.
do.
Sure.
Does anyone have any comments, questions on the minutes from the last meeting? I think just Cindy and I were at that one.
Right.
Or does anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes from the school committee.
June 6th.
June 6th.
Thank you, meeting on June 6th, 2019.
And I'll second that since Eric wasn't at that one. Moving into our new business, we have school choice requests and availability. Principal Barnes?
Yep. So I just want to start and say that we have, beyond kindergarten so far, we have 13 new students to the building officially on record in other grades, 1 through 8. 9 of whom are residents and 4 are choice. In addition to that, we have a potential 6 more who have just walked in the last day. Of those, 3 would be choice, and we do have openings currently in some of those. And 1 is a resident, and 2 are looking to move, but would like to come as choice until they can close on the house. So that would make 19 new students, again, beyond kindergarten grades, which we've never seen. And, well, I shouldn't say we've never seen it. I don't know, anybody who's here hasn't seen that to date. So I think it's pretty remarkable, and in light of everything that's been going on in the last few years for us in this town with the building and all of our publicity, we're pretty popular in the news for many things. I think it's a great positive plus that we have 19 new students coming on board. That is bucking the trend in the county of a decreased enrollment. It's moving the other way. So I think it speaks to the strength of our community, and it speaks to the strength of the school, and it's super exciting for me. So I just want to start with that good news, that you'd be interested in that. We said we wanted to table the kindergarten choice slots and potentially open some more at this meeting, because with kindergarten it's tricky. We have residents, and we always want to make sure that we're not opening too many slots before we have all of our residents registered. And what happens with kindergarten sometimes is, you have people who are late to register because they don't know that when they were supposed to do it, or things like that happen. So where we're at with kindergarten is we currently have 13 students enrolled, and some of those were choice siblings from before when you opened them up, right? So we're at 13. I would like to propose opening 3 choice slots at this point, because I don't think we are, in August going to potentially get any more residents. And even if we did get a couple were still good. So I think 16 is a safe number to start with. And coincidentally, there are three of the people who would like to enter are kindergartners of those 19 that I mentioned, which I told them we didn't officially open up slots, so they would be filled immediately if we open them by the people who are interested who just walked in. Some walked in today, some have applied. One had applied earlier and was waiting for this meeting to see if there was anything that opened. So I think the first question on the table is whether or not we want to open 3 slots at this point. And if you agree, do you want to motion that in to being?
Anyone have any discussion on that, or should we just make a motion? I think, yeah.
I think going to 16 is a good number because it leaves a little bit of cushion in case we
Right.
get a
Right.
couple of people that we aren't aware of that move in or are just haven't registered yet for whatever reason. So I think it still gives us a little bit of room to still have a good number in kindergarten without going too far.
Agree with that. Anyone like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to create or accept. Open 3 school choice slots in kindergarten for the 2019-20 school year.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
It's fun with 3, yeah. So in addition, so now what, my next question, part 2, is we have a family where they have a 2nd grader, a 1st grader, and a kindergarten, and they're North Adams residents who would like to come here under choice. The 2nd grader, we had a slot open, and so the 2nd grader, the family would like the 2nd grader to take that slot. Having opened this 3, she was on one of the people on the waiting list for that kindergarten slot to open, so then her kindergartner would be coming after today since you opened the slots because she's the first person on the waiting list. Her 2nd grader would be coming because that person was already accepted through the 2nd grade opening we had. She has a 1st grader who, and currently they homeschool, so she was, I think, looking to see if all 3 of her children could come. And I said that I would present that to the committee to see if that's an option of opening an additional slot in 1st grade, given the circumstances of the family. We had 18 kindergartners moving to 1st grade. We have 20 now because we had 2 residents enter. Because we did not have any school choice slots that we opened in that grade. So we're at 20 currently.
Sorry, that's first.
1st grade, right. So I'm just, I'd like to just put on the table and discuss thoughts, ideas, and impressions around that and what that.
So basically, we currently have 20 because we had 18, 2 people moved into town,
Yep.
and we're going to add 1 more, make it 21.
Right.
So it keeps the family, obviously, with 3.
Keeps the
And
family
just
here.
my only question, I know there was some conversation about grade levels with this family, so obviously we had some follow-up on that, it's all set.
Right, and so, so the 2nd grader who is the 2nd grade age would would accept that 2nd grade slot. And, because at first, we have additional 2nd grade slots open, and she felt like because she was homeschooling them and they were on the same level, could they just both go into 2nd grade? And we said, nah, that's not, like, let me see first if we can open up a slot for the grade level that would be age appropriate and not having any other information around that child and their, where they are. That this would be the first step that we should go through initially to see, and then.
Yeah, I'd say turn out a good dialogue about it. Those early years are so important. So to miss a grade level or to, and I just not doubting the work that's being done at home or other programs that they were working, and I just don't want to set up a child to have struggles at a young age when coming into a new school and really the positive environment we have here. I think it's the best interest of the child to go in the grade level they should be in and not to miss any grade levels. So we're just trying to look out for the best interest of the child.
We do know coming out of our PCG study that they were recommending class sizes of 18 to 22. which is, and they pointed out that we were way under state averages in terms of class size. So I just, like, that's a point of reference to consider, I think, in the decision. We have teaching assistants in all classrooms, grades K-2, so there are 2 adults in the room. That's not changing this year. We have a very capable first grade teacher. We have a very capable primary wing staff, you know, in general, and all the way through. So I don't have any doubts that this would, opening up another slot would, you know, adversely affect the class. So those are my thoughts that I'm sharing. What's yours?
I think it's reasonable. I think, like you said, comparatively, when you look at other districts and class sizes, 21 is still on the lower end.
Mhm.
And definitely keeping, you know, the kids together is kind of what we do here. It's kind of a priority for our kids and families, so I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to do.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay. So if one of you want to motion that into existence.
Make a motion to open 1 additional slot in first grade classroom for a choice student.
Your second? All in favor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have more to talk about school choice? I just wonder if we could run through the numbers for each of the classes. I'm just curious if I can get the final numbers for each class. Do you have those, or maybe you don't?
I wasn't prepared with those.
Sorry.
And they seem to be changing every day.
Well, that's what I wondered. I didn't know if those are the only ones to bring up tonight.
Those were the only
Okay.
ones that I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
So the other of those 6 that sort of walked in the last, well, there's 5 who walked in on the last day. We do have a choice slot open in the grade levels they were interested in, except for that one kindergarten one, which I said we would know after tonight. So it was a 6th grader, which we have spots for. We have slots open in 6th grade, and a 3rd grader who we have slots open for. So they would take those slots that are waiting, and that would be fine. It was the kindergarten issue of, you know, wondering if their whole family could be a part. So I think we're pretty set otherwise for school choice. Okay.
We'll move on then to the
Yeah, what's next?
teaching assistant salary wage scale.
So we broached this subject last year, increasing the rate of TA pay. At that time, our superintendent was just coming on board. We already had, you know, a budget that was in motion and lots of factors. Our TAs currently start at $10.06 an hour for a non-college degree. I want to point out that we have 2 14-year-olds who do summer work here and help Mr. Peters, who both got paid the same rate. So it feels, and I'm looking at, you know, other schools around here, the starting rate for teaching assistants is higher than that. And so I know, you know, and what's great is that people still want to come here, and I think we're really thankful that it's still an attractive place to be, even if the salary is not competitive currently. We do still have, we had 2 TA openings. I found one, I haven't found another. You know, and I just think, in all fairness, and we talked about this last year, and we had an open discussion about it, that we wanted to look at putting something in place. We have a new business manager who's been here only a month, and has done about 1,000 things in that first 30 days. And that was just not one of the things that we were necessarily prepared to present tonight, but I wanted to open up, just kind of say that before school starts, and perhaps it's at the August 22nd meeting, I'd really like to pin something down. I know there was will last year from all the school committee to increase this, and then figure out how to you know, make the scale kind of move for everybody else who's had 6 years in, or 7 years, or whatever it is. But I really feel strongly that we need to make that happen. One of the ways that I think that we can make it happen, because it obviously, we do again have a budget set already. We just got our allocations for Title I funds, and we can potentially offset that teaching assistant line with the Title I funds that we received. We never find out till the summer what that allocation is and how much it changes, but we did just get that information. It's similar to last year, so we could potentially move some teaching assistants who are doing intervention type work, which falls within our Title I plan, under the Title I funds, which would then free up the line item for teaching assistants in the operate local budget. So I think it's doable. I just need the master business person to sort of go through and fine tune that process and do all the things that I'm not thinking about with this. So I don't know if there's anything to decide at this point. I just sort of wanted to flag that for you, that this was really an important thing that we wanted to make sure we hit August 22nd, and hopefully we would have a plan to present at that time for you to vote on at that time.
Yeah, I'll try to do some work in between. I know Tara's away next week, but we can hopefully get something to you before the meeting so we can look at it. And I know Savoy is going through the same conversation with their TA salaries being in a similar range, which are obviously very low, and with efforts to increase the minimum wage in Massachusetts over the next few years. I know that we're not governed by that being a municipality, but if we want to keep people in our, the good people we have working in our schools, it'd be in our best interest to try to make our living thing a little more reasonable.
They do great work. We have wonderful teaching assistants. Right. They're doing a lot of heavy lifting in classrooms, and they're responsible for doing a lot with our children. So I'm preaching to the choir. All right. Next.
Yeah, we have very little turnover in our staff. I mean,
right.
The only position we're trying to fill are, we were the student support center position, which had been filled by Jamie Hall, actually, who was obviously moving to a different position. So it's important that we find somebody that's very qualified for that position. And as well, it's nice to have most of our teaching assistant staff coming back from last year too.
Yes. Okay. There's something else I would do. Yeah, I can put him on the agenda.
Yeah, we can do that, sure.
Okay.
That's good.
So can I introduce?
Yeah, please.
So we have a new cafeteria manager, Jim Callahan, who has come tonight to just be able to meet you, put a face with a name, and I asked Jim. He's got so much enthusiasm about this position. I've seen him more than any staff member besides Mary Jarrell this summer, because while he's not even, it hasn't even started, he is 100% on board in here all the time, asking questions, figuring out. He painted the floor even in the kitchen in the storeroom. It's so energizing and amazing to have Jim on board. So I wanted him to share just some of his vision around some of the changes, and he's very, he's already gone to a workshop to start learning about the state mandates around this, because this is a highly mandated and regulated area, our school nutrition plan. So he's picking up on those pieces because his previous experience was not in public schools, although he's been, how many years at Mrs. Hall?
27 at Miss Hall's. Well, 1 year at MCLA, but
Okay.
almost 39 years of private school feeding.
So a long time. He's got this.
Ready for more.
Right, and he's
Yeah, I'm very excited.
So go ahead, Jim. Share your vision. And
Well, I've met almost everybody.
We met the other day.
Deb, right?
Yes, good.
I don't know who this guy is.
He's always the heckler in the back. Just seems
He's
to come to
stuck
these
in.
meetings and.
And Rana and Jen and John. I've met you, but I forgot your name. Cindy. Eric, I haven't met you.
Correct.
And you mentioned your name to me when? Laura, okay. And Tara. I'm very excited. I've looked at many public school menus and thought, wow, that's tough, I thought, and I never knew all the regulations, and as I'm getting into this, I find, wow, it's really, it can be really restrictive unless you figure it out and know, how you have to work through that and make it work. I'd love to do more, I'd love to do all scratch cooking, fresh food. I'd like to work with students, and I think, as I learn this and the process, I'll take more on and do more. I'll work with Roe in Florida. But it was very surprising to me, after going through the workshop, all the requirements and how it all works with reimbursements and how it all is funded. We want it to be sustainable. We want the program to at least pay for itself, if not make a little money to put back into the program. And we can do that with increasing participation, a better breakfast program, maybe even do some catering, for sure, and throwing money back in for the students, because we want to make sure that they're eating the food that we're providing, and that they're not hungry, and they're in class learning and not worrying about what they're going to have to eat or what they have to eat, or being hungry. I do have a lot of ideas, and I implement them as I learn the program. Some of them will happen sooner than others, but I think as I go through the year, you'll see that it's a different program, hopefully better for the students. We're in the process of implementing a new POS system, a point of service system, where parents can prepay. There may not be as much money transaction, and I have to learn how all of that works with Clarksburg, and how I'll work with Jen to make sure that we're sustainable and doing what we have to do.
And you're going to use the grill.
And yes,
we're going to use who's
we're gonna use the grill.
Super excited about that.
Yeah, and I was thinking, pieces of equipment. One that I missed is a steamer. I mean, the steamer I think is very important, because right now it must be all the vegetables are put in a pot and cooked somehow. But if we could use more fresh vegetables and steam them quickly, I think they're more nutritious. They taste better. And it's utilized for a bunch of other things, and that could fit right in between them in the mixer and in the convection oven. I think we need a warmer holding box that also acts as a proofer, where we could I would like to make fresh whole grain breads and rolls and pizza doughs, and work with students to incorporate that. So there's a lot of stuff that I have, and she knows that I've been here. And I've had a good career with Aramark, but it got to the point where I wasn't having a lot of reward. And I think that here, if I can make a student happy about coming to lunch and have a good meal and go home and say, "Hey, Mom, I love this. I had a great day. I had a great lunch, had a great day," and that would be good.
Thank you, Jim.
Sure.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions or?
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited about his ideas about breakfast, because we know it's an area we've talked about. It's so important to have our kids starting out their day with breakfast, and we know a lot of families are busy and there's a lot going on in the morning, so to have some good options for them in the morning. And I know that Jim's talked about having the service upstairs on a cart, so the kids are going upstairs into their classrooms, just making it a more, I guess, just a student-friendly program that will encourage them to eat. I think is a great step forward, because if a kid's hungry in the morning, they're not going to learn. So, and sometimes the kids don't want to miss out on being with their friends and different things. So I think by making these suggestions and upgrades, we'll be able to reach more of our students to have them eat breakfast and just start them off with a real positive beginning to their day, so they can be more prepared to have a successful day. So thank you for doing that.
I hope the program snowballs, that kids see other kids eating more, and the different offerings. They'll be like, "Wow, I'd like to have that," and buy in.
And the key thing, I think, is as you get into this position, we can have more time. There's a lot of money, state grant money out there for breakfast programs.
Yes,
so,
there is.
So we certainly have opportunities, and I know you've been working a little with Corey Nicholas or some, together with collaborating with him, and I think it's just an option. It's an opportunity for us to, we're always looking for some grant funding and some support, and this is an area where we certainly can take advantage of that.
Sure.
Help our students.
Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk about the?
Yeah, just, we obviously had the vote at the end of July, which we appreciate the strong support from the residents to allow us to continue with this work on the merger proposal. I know that, we were a little concerned because we were getting a little bit of pushback from the state and DESI about getting grant funding for this year, but we had the extra grant that thankfully Clarksburg had obtained. We had gotten the money from the state last year that we used to pay off our portion of the PCG feasibility study. We had to use a little bit of that community compact grant, but there's enough left over, I believe, to match the Stanford portion. So I know Eric attended the interstate meeting on Monday where they started to draft some wording on an RFP for to hire some type of retired administrator or consultant to lead the next phase in that work, since there's a lot of really important work needs to be done in regard to pensions and union contracts and licenses and just getting the state boards to oversee some key areas. So I did have a conference call today with Anna from PCG just to update her on the process. I know she's stated that she wants to stay involved, and one of the options that we had talked about that unfortunately wasn't at the meeting on Monday, but we had said that would our proposal for people to lead the next phase include possibly a local person and maybe something at the state level. So they're still interested in either bidding if necessary or being involved in some way to continue this work. I mean, they've put a lot of time and effort into the last 7 months or so to help us, and they know there's obstacles there for us, and some of them are coming from our own state in terms of looking at all of our options, that they feel like we need to look a little more into those, just to make sure that we're exploring to get the best option for our interstate merger proposal. But it's good to have that buy-in from a company that came in to do some work and really is invested in that work with us. So I think we have some more work to do, but it's just nice to have the strong support from the community, both Stanford and Clarksburg residents, to allow us to move forward with a lot more work that needs to be done. And just to reiterate what Kara said at the meeting, because I don't think that was on film that night, the vote didn't say that we're doing a merger. It said that we're going to continue working on that, and there will be at least one more vote before a final decision is made, that the residents will have to decide what's the best option going forward.
Any discussion on that? Anyone? Should we open it up to the building repairs and renovation discussion?
Okay. Just I guess an update on the boiler project is that we have encountered some challenges with that. Berlin came and did the asbestos abatement work. That's been completed. The test has been tested by ATC to make sure all the environmental criteria has been met, and we've received the reports from them saying it is. There was one perfect storm kind of moment during the asbestos removal where there was a state inspector here, and there was discovered a couple of violations with the process they were using that day. It was reported to us in the district office and to the town and to the school, and it's been taken care of. But because of those violations, it was also a report made by the DEP to the Department of Labor Standards. So we received a call about 2 weeks ago from Janet McKenna from that department informing us of that and asking about our compliance work together between the school and the town. So we had actually a meeting with her and one of her inspectors this morning. We organized that so that everybody was, all parties at the table. Laura attended to represent the school committee, Tara was there as a principal, myself, Ron was there as the select board chair, and also interim town administrator. Derek Wisman, along with another member of the ATC team, was there. And we had a very good discussion about what needs to be done with these projects in terms of not just the project with the abatement work, but also a plan a hero plan, they call it, for making sure we're in compliance with our inspections, our 3-year required inspections, and 6-month follow-up. So we also received some information, some forms that we have to give to contractors when they come into the building, informing them about potential areas where there could be asbestos materials. So we had a good example of how we need to work together in that last Friday when the flooring was being put up on the junior high school level. We were just covering, and we had that approval through Mr. Wisman at ACC that was a plan that was okay to cover those tiles, but the contractor wanted to remove the strips on the side that we were not sure if that was allowed or not. So we contacted Derek. The contractor just worked in the middle of the floor until we got the word from him officially that it was okay to remove those strips. So I think the key thing about that is because this building is so old, we have to, before we do any kind of work on this building, get an inspection done for abatement work. So because what we don't want to do is to remove something and disturb an area that does contain any asbestos, and that would be a problem to try to clean it up afterwards. So we're trying to be proactive and make sure that we follow all the rules of compliance. The meeting today was very positive and proactive, but I think it was very clear from the tone from the inspectors that if we don't put these HERA management programs in place and processes in place, and then the next meeting will not be very productive, and they're very positive and will be cited further between the school and the town. So with the age of our building, it's important that we have these in place to protect our staff, our students, and everybody that comes into this building. So the concern with that is, from my standpoint, is that this boiler project is obviously there's another problem with it, is that the select board approved the bids for the boiler on March 28th, I believe, was the day of the meeting. But unfortunately, the contract was never executed with Climate. So as we were going through the asbestos work a few weeks ago, we discovered that because the contract had been signed, they never ordered the boilers. So Mr. Boucher did get involved and did sign the proposal that was accepted by the select board, because it had never been signed by the previous administrator, unfortunately. So they ordered the boilers now, but obviously they're not here. So we have an issue of they won't be in for a few more weeks. So we were on the phone yesterday with Climate, Jen and myself. I know Ron has been calling them as well. They're sending out one of their installers tomorrow to take a look at the actual location, what work has been done, what they need to do. So they understand the issue. They're a busy company. They have a lot of projects going on, and we emphasized to them yesterday that while we understand that and we appreciate that issue, we also have a building that's going to open in 3 weeks with kids coming to school in September when it's going to get cold. In the morning it was cold this week, a couple of nights. So we have emphasized they're going to work with us. They're going to do the best they can to get in, but we're going to have to look into certain areas about, do we have hot water is probably the key area. And, we do have a new hot water tank that's in the kitchen area that Jim said should be able to run off of propane to handle the needs of the kitchen, but we're trying to look into an inspection about what our other options are for hot water in the building. So, and that's a concern because we could be going several weeks without this boiler project being completed. So that's kind of where that stands right now. And I think, one of the key areas, we can talk about that for a few minutes, but I think it really points out that, and we had some discussion about that today in the last few weeks, is that this plan to do all these projects, and we have the school safety grant money for the entrance of the building. We budgeted, obviously, the debt exclusion money. We're trying to come up with a plan for that money. While the overall building project I know was voted down a couple of years ago, this plan to do all of these different projects one by one is
Challenging?
It's challenging, and in my opinion, it's not a good plan. It's not a viable plan for the long-term success of this building. I think I'm really encouraged by the last couple of votes and discussions with the residents of our town to emphasize the need to have a school in Clarksburg. I mean, just listening to Tara talk about all the families that are moving in here, not just this year, but previous years, and the number one reason why they're moving here is because they want to have their kids go to school here, or they're trying to school choice their kids into this school because it is it's an excellent school. The kids are getting good education here. It's a good atmosphere. People want their children to go to school here, which says a lot about what's going on. So it's important that we find a way to keep this building open. But I think we have to have a plan in place that is better than the one we have now. Because the bottom line, in a small town, we don't have a project manager, to oversee this type of work. And in our building, we don't have a facility person, we have a custodian that, his job is to clean the building and to keep it up to code in those areas, not fixing things. So like a key component of this most recent job is the company comes in to do their work and the asbestos abatement. There's really nobody in the town or the school to oversee them. So I know that one of the compliance things we have to do today was designate who's our ERA coordinator, which I guess is going to be me, so there was some training for it. And that's, obviously, I need to learn more about it. That's not my area of strength, and it's not, there's nobody in our town office currently or our school office that really would be able to do that either. So, I mean, since we have to do it for some of our other schools too, which are just as old as this one, I figured it was good for me to learn more about it and to fill that role. But we also are developing a relationship and a financial relationship and business agreement with ATC to do all of our inspections and work in regard to asbestos abatement in all of our schools. So, probably should get back to the boiler project and talk about that, I guess, about any information that we can do. I know that one of the things that Jen and Laura were talking about today was working together with the town to execute an official contract with them to make sure that we're staying on track, and because what we have now is a signed bid proposal. So I know that was one thing that Jen was planning to communicate with Erica about at the town hall, and also to part of the agreement with them says we're supposed to give Climate a 25% down payment from the grant that we have. So just they're making a commitment to us to try to help get this thing done. So we're feeling we should follow through on our end of the agreement and do our part as well. So, I mean, the school, we're very fortunate to have Jen step in this business administrator role because with her background, municipal experience in North Adams, she's very well versed in the bid process and how things need to be done to stay in compliance with what state regulations are. And, we want to make sure that we stay within those. And today was a good step with meeting together with the Department of Labor, and we have to make sure we're following those guidelines very closely. And that's in regard to everything from the bid to the asbestos to just the way the work is done in our school. So we're concerned because, obviously the original plan was that we were supposed to get all this work done during the summer. Now it's not going to happen. So we're also trying to think of a way to communicate with our families and the community about what's going to happen here so that people know the actual facts about the way we're going to get this fixed before we get too far into our fall. So, but obviously that's a concern when we have more work that needs to be done.
And what feeling did you get from Climate?
Well, their hands are a little tied right now. They don't have anything in, so everything's on order.
Did you feel now? Did they give any inkling at all the time span?
Yeah, they indicated that the materials they need should be in by September 1st, or the first week of September at the latest. Because of the way that the school is structured, I think my understanding is they have to build it downstairs because it's not going to fit in the building. So that's the reason why I'm glad that they contacted Ron today, and we were also involved in the email chain about sending that person out here tomorrow. So I feel like we made a lot of progress just in one day yesterday because when we called them in the morning, the gentleman called back when I was out of the office, but Jen spoke with him, and then we called them back together later, and we really emphasized the need to ask them to prioritize this project. Because I know it's probably not their biggest project, they have a lot of other work to do, but it's also a school. So, what we're trying to avoid is our kids in the school on a September morning when it's cold outside, and this is an old brick building. It's not going to warm up very easily in the morning either. So, and also with the hot water issue. So, we want to do what's best for our kids and make sure they're in a safe, secure building that has what they're required to have a good school day.
And what about time period to put them in?
Takes a couple weeks.
Takes a couple weeks. So
best case scenario would take 2 weeks.
15th of September then. Would be best case.
Best case,
yes,
about. I would say.
Yeah. So you're talking about possibly 2 weeks of
Yeah,
school time.
Yeah, at least 2 weeks, I would say.
Yeah.
Another thing, and I've already proclaimed in this group, I don't know much about boilers and things like that, but once you hook up a new system to an existing system that's pushing things through, do you have, I'm sure one of the reasons we wanted to do this during the summer was to get the kinks out, because if something doesn't connect in the right way, or if there's some kind of, you know, we'd have a chance to run it. So I don't know how often, you know, I mean, there's the potential of that too, I guess.
yeah,
We have to
possibly.
see if it works. So,
I'm sure the boiler guy's got the answers there. I don't.
come on, Tom, why don't you wheel
I'm
up,
not a
Tom?
boiler
Come on.
guy. I'm not a boiler guy.
But you're,
Okay.
But
you
Get more
got
knowledge
ideas.
what
about
happened
stuff
is we went through some new things because we haven't done anything here in quite some time. And I understand you don't have people professed in these certain areas. And right from the start, I'm very frustrated too. I'm very frustrated that this isn't happening and things went wrong. But there was a lot of things that did happen. Town-wise, and when I heard the same thing, the materials didn't get ordered because they didn't have a contract. We were very lucky that they got the stuff as quick as they did.
Right.
Because right from the
Right.
beginning, I was saying, we gotta start this, have a contract in
Yep.
place in May, so they can order materials and we can have them here.
I can remember your email.
So now we need to figure out how we can work with them to finish this up. I have talked to them, they're willing to do what they need to do, and obviously you've talked to them too, they're a great company.
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna sell us out short. But even back when we started, I mentioned we should hire a mechanical engineer to oversee all this, and that never happened. I mean, I'm here.
Oh, yeah, you're a volunteer.
I'm a
You're
volunteer.
you're trying to do a
And
full-time
I
job.
can't stick my nose in only so far because I think, like you said, you're concerned about moving forward. And we've identified projects that need to be done, and I think everybody agrees with it. But we never, after the year, 2 years that I've been doing this, who's responsible? That has never been determined. Is the school responsible for the infrastructure of this school, like you guys up there, or is the town? Before we can move forward, that needs to be taken care of. Who's in charge of what? And I don't know how long this is gonna go when people are just waiting for somebody else to do it. Well, you know yourself, in your business, if you don't tell somebody this is your job, they're not gonna do it. Or they're not gonna do it because they know, well, I'll get to that, maybe I'll help you with it. And it's not like this falling through with this contract. And that happens because nobody was assigned the job. So I hope you guys and Ron and other people in the town figure this out. Because I'm very frustrated. I put a lot of time into this, behind the scenes, and I understand things were gonna go wrong, and I knew it, and I sat back and I waited, because I didn't feel that I should be sticking my nose into this. People had to learn the hard way. And this could be a lot worse, the way I look at it. I think we're moving forward, and I'm proud of everybody that's done everything, and I went upstairs before I came in, and we're moving in the right direction. But we need to have responsibility. Is the school responsibility for the cosmetics? Is the town responsible for the roofs, the boilers, the infrastructure, the windows, bigger jobs like that? That has to be ironed out. I don't know how it works in North Adams or whatever other town you're involved with. And I know there's a small town, we don't have an engineer on staff, we don't have project managers on staff.
I mean, the one project I can tell you I was involved with was the Coal Grove project that was done a few years ago in North Adams, their building renovation. I mean, they have a facilities person that oversees that. So when I would go to the school building meetings that, of course, there was a large, which we did, I'm assuming we had a school building project team when we were going through the bid process to the, a couple of years ago. I mean, that group received reports from the facilities manager that was employed by North Adams, the project team that was employed through the building project. The town is involved with the project because they're, you know, as it is here, they're the owners of the building, they're owners of the property. The school is, you know, basically like the tenant running it. But as we were informed today, we need to be involved with that process, and we have. I mean, like I said, we're very fortunate that with Jen's background, that she's getting involved with the, you know, the whole process for not just the asbestos and the reporting and the compliance of all that, but she's trying to take on some of the work, working together with the treasurer in town to, and whoever the administrator is going to be. And that's going to be a key hire. I mean, we've really been almost going on 3 months now without a town administrator because Ron stepped in, but he also has a full-time job too. So, I mean, so there's been nobody in that position, and that's really where the challenges come in, because we needed, well, we all just assumed that it had been done, that the administrator had followed through on the contracts and the signing and the letting the climate know that it had been approved. But I mean, what they told us on the phone was they submitted their bid, and then it was, kept asking each other, did you hear anything? Did you hear anything? No, there was no communication for several months, so they figured they didn't get the job. So we are fortunate that they are working with us, and they're trying to get the materials in as fast as they can from their supplier. And but you know, it just spells out that you're right. There needs to be oversight, and there needs to be some. I think we've done a good job of trying to work together to get some of these projects to the point they're at now. But you know, we're talking about, I think, in regards to these building projects, we're talking about major, you know, jobs. We're talking about fixing roofs and entrances to buildings. And I mean, if you walk through our bathrooms, a volunteer group has done a great job of painting and making them look fresh and can send a positive message to our kids. But you know, if you look at, if I have no training in that, but I look at all the rest of the bathrooms, I know that those things are older. There's no way we're going to touch any of that without it being full of asbestos. So if we're going to do major projects in there, that's going to require a full abatement and a major time commitment to get those done. So we need to have a better, I mean, because the reality is that this boiler project has been a mess. It's way behind schedule. It's not going to get done during the summer like we're all planning for it to be, and that's not acceptable. So we have to be better going forward. But the key question, I guess, is can we be? Do we have the administrative structure in place in the town and the school to handle it? Because right now we don't. There's like, you know, I know you're saying people should be responsible. I agree with you. But I don't think there are people that can fill those roles based on what we have in place now. We don't have those.
The town was never prepared for something like this. I hate to say that, but it's true. And we talked about it this morning, you know, they always had that division of school, the town, but actually it comes down to the town's responsibility. The town's inventory, it's a piece of inventory of the town owns this building. So the town, as we move forward, unfortunately, we can't change, like I said, what happened before, but we can change what happens the next day. And I think as we move forward, and the importance piece is going to be who we hire the next administrator. We need a strong individual with procurement background, be able to do some grant writing, do some different things. But we have to change the way we go about doing business, because I get very frustrated because they develop so many bad habits in this town. It's sickening. I hate to say that, but it's true. And you know, trying to change things in the short term, it can be frustrating because change is hard. But yeah, and I said this morning, I'm a person that's about policy and procedure, and that's something that never was in place. So they just ran by the seat of their pants, and we got to change the way we go about doing things. And it'll start with that administrator. I told them this morning, I want to hire a facilities person for the town that can work at the town hall here at the school too. We don't have that.
Yeah, they don't have to be full-time.
No, but again, to get somebody, they can hire them for
Each project.
Yeah,
Hire someone for
again,
each project.
but again, like I said to John, I said, you know, you're gonna do a project like this, and it really shows our inabilities. You know, it's good that you guys, you put your time in, and I appreciate your expertise on certain things. I've reached out to you for different things, but it's not your job, you know, and I understand that. So, but it's a real wake-up call, and we were pretty lucky, actually, this morning at that meeting. I figured the worst, but it wasn't so bad.
But I think the fact that everybody came together this morning went a long
Yeah,
way
I
towards
thought it was
showing
very
that we're
good.
committed to doing it.
What was the, I'm just curious, what were the issues or problems that these inspectors cited?
It was a mask, wasn't a mask, and then I guess it was like the perfect storm, they call it, right? They had to cut a pipe and some water got on the floor. It wasn't a lot of water, but it was, and then DEP happened to be here at that time, so they had to alert, they alerted
But I think the concern was when they asked who was in charge of the site, there was nobody in charge of the site from the school.
We need somebody in
Right.
charge.
Yeah, even if
Because
you,
even a little bit of water, there's a certain number that contamination sends a signal, and I don't think that you even came close to hitting that. I think this inspector is being devil's advocate, and be an eye-opener type thing. I said it from the beginning, we needed a better plan, we needed to know what, and that's gonna cost money, we need to know where your asbestos is. So we don't do a project, that all needs to be done before,
Yeah.
and that's what we do where I'm at. You don't do anything until you know what's there and how to handle it. Then you can bid a job out. And it was over a year, we asked, where's the report, where's the report, where's the report, where's the report? And we're just volunteers, so at some point, we just go, okay, something's gonna happen. And it did, but it wasn't bad. So this is all good stuff, it's all good learning stuff, and things are moving, and we just gotta figure out whose job's what. Each project, and you might wanna hire somebody for each project, and just do it like
and that
that.
was a thought too.
And you can take bids.
Yeah, to look at particular
And
projects.
these different
and hire
project
person
managers say,
specific.
hey, this is our project, give me a price on what you're gonna
Yeah.
charge me to oversee this.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it lasts 2-3 months,
Right.
let them bid on it.
Right, absolutely, absolutely.
And it could be money well spent. Then they're responsible.
Jen?
If I could just add, Ed asked the question about Climate's response. Under the circumstances, they've been excellent. I mean, they ordered the equipment without the retainer. So
Yeah.
they've been very, very, very helpful and very responsive to any of our questions. So as soon as they can get the equipment here, I'm very confident that they will. As we move forward, why I am not a project engineer or any kind of architect, I think it's important that now that my position is full-time, that I work with the town and I work with the renovation committee about what your projects are, and I can help you bring those projects to life through the procurement process. And if that means that we need to, call in an engineer or call in an architect to design it, I can do a lot of that grunt work, which has been at the town level. And I personally would feel more comfortable as I represent the school, as we move forward with those projects, to kind of take the lead on the procurement side. That doesn't mean I have the final say or the superintendent has the final say, but we can build a project together, paperwork-wise, that's my specialty.
Yeah.
And bring it back to the town and say, here's our spec, here's what we need, give us the blessing, we'll go out to bid, we report back to the school committee, the select board, the renovation committee. I'm still not quite sure where you fit in the process. And then we move forward and we work on contract administration. That kind of stuff I can do with my eyes shut. But I think the position that we're in with the boiler is nobody really was watching the shop. And we can't keep poking at each other about it, we just need to move forward. But for example, Tara wrote a wonderful grant and we got awarded the safety grant. And we're gonna design that with Westall. We're gonna come back to the town and say, okay, here's our spec, what do you think? This is what we're looking at. And then we'll get the blessing. This division of town and school, we gotta work together. So that's kind of my approach, and I've only been here for a week, but that is my approach, and that's how I like to work with all of you and tap into my experience. I don't have all the answers, but we can find them, and the state is a great resource, and we shouldn't be afraid to pick up the phone and call the procurement people and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this job, what do you think? And if we're in over our heads, we all know a lot of people that, you're absolutely right, we do an RFP. For a clerk of the works, and maybe it's just a couple of weeks. But unfortunately, I don't think the town has had that support, and I don't think the school has had that support. So I'm excited to work with all of you, and we just gotta keep moving forward. But, your question about who is responsible and where we go from here, we're just putting a lot of Band-Aids on some big issues. And we need to decide, what role we all play and where we're going to go as where do we want to be 5 years from now. So that's just my approach, and I'd be happy to work with your committee at any time. But, we're in a bad spot with the boiler and we can't change it, and, Climate's being, really responsible as far as getting it moving, but until they knew that they had the bid, they couldn't. So, my recommendation today, I sent Ron an email, is we need to get a contract, a real contract, a payment and performance bond, and we need to tee it up so we won't have any additional problems as we move forward. But I'm ready, willing, and able, but you gotta kind of, let us in, and we gotta let you in, and we just, gotta keep moving forward.
I think that's gonna be a really good step, because if you think about it, the whole snag is so minor thing that we missed. Just issuing the contract. Of all the things that we did to get the boiler work going, the asbestos removed, the studies, getting the money and everything. The one thing that we messed up on was the easiest.
Yeah.
That's what's discouraging.
No excuse for it.
No.
But we also
And like I
have
say,
the
nobody,
problems down the road where we
should
don't
hit right
necessarily
on the
are
button.
seeing it, to
Right.
see, I can't stand there and say, oh my gosh, well, I think I could tell them they should have a mask on, but, bigger things like
Yeah.
that, if someone's doing a roof or something like that, we aren't going to, so we really do need to try and figure out
roof work you'll
someone,
have to.
whether it's per job or whatever, I'm assuming the town's gonna need that as well for town, doing projects, other buildings in the town as well.
And I'm sure maybe Jen would know a little more about it. There's almost probably got to be like a procedure book that tells you to follow these steps.
It's Massachusetts General Law.
That's what I'm saying. So when you get into the point where you're ready to go on a contract, you have a checklist, Uh-oh, we forgot the easy one.
I think that's, Jen's the missing link.
Yeah.
She's been
Yeah.
the missing link in our
Yeah.
whole.
And I think if we
I think
pull
that'll
all
help
of
tremendously.
our resources.
Not that it was the town fault or the school's fault, I mean, it happened, like you say, we can't change it anyways.
I think historically, really the issue has been is that most of the folks who get involved in whatever benefit for the town and the school have a full-time job.
Exactly.
And everybody's trying to put some effort, but it's not enough effort
Yeah.
to get the whole picture covered. And that's why it always feels piecemeal. And both sides are always operating on a budget that feels less than what they really need to do the thorough job that they want to be doing. So between not enough time and not enough money, we're always sort of scrapping for, at least get something done. And this is a very different thing, we can't do this halfway. So it's great to have you here, Jen, thank you.
And I think it's gonna be a big help. And the other thing too, that
Definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah,
Glad to hear.
absolutely.
when John mentioned about piecemealing, there's kind of no other way for a town like Clarksburg to
That's
do
right,
it.
that's right.
We're never gonna get the kind of money we need, John, from this town to take on that big project. You know what I mean? Boiler, roof, new plumbing, it's just not here. So we have kind of no other alternative to keep it going the way it is without discouraging the taxpayer to the point where now they're gonna start to think, hey, are we just throwing good money away here? That's my fear.
Right, that's why I feel right now that what we're doing with this plan that's in place. You said there needs to be a better plan, I agree 100%. I mean, this plan that we have in place right now is not long-term.
No, it's not.
It's not long-term. So we really need to decide, the residents as a whole need to decide. And I think the one thing I've been encouraged by is that the last two meetings for the interstate vote and the vote at the town meeting for the debt exclusion is that the town is pretty overwhelmingly stated they want to have a school, that the school is important. I mean, there's people who are moving into this town because there's a school. And it's a school that's been rated well by the state, which isn't easy. It's been clearly has a good reputation locally because we have people that move here, people that want to send their students here from other towns. And it's doing a good job educating our kids in a positive environment. But the reality is, I mean, we're living in a world where things are changing rapidly, as we know. So we have to provide our students with the best educational opportunities we have. I'll point this out. I mean, Bob's been great. We've had a lot of good communication going back and forth. And there was one comment that we had back and forth, I know, back in the fall or something, where he said to me, I think we work together, we can provide our kids with an adequate building. And I just kind of thought about that for a while, and I said, I understand what you're saying, I understand your contentions are good like they always are, but I thought to myself, I'm like, I want to provide our kids with better than an adequate building. I want to provide them with I want to provide them with endless opportunities to be successful and have a good life. So my goal would never be for anything for our kids adequate. And I understand, I'm picking words and it doesn't, I'm not, no offense. So, but I'm just saying to me, that's my goal as an educator and and everything I've done is I want to do what's best for our kids. And I understand we have limitations, I get that. But we really have to make a decision about what do we want to do here? What's our goal? Because at some point, it's going to be, we don't plan for it, we don't think about what our long-term plans are, it's not going to be in our hands anymore. So I just want to think about that before we get too far, because like I said, we want to put this money that the taxpayers are taking on, they're taking that burden on towards good projects, sustainable projects, things that make our building better and long-term, not just for 5 years, because otherwise that's a waste. So I think that's something that we have to consider. We had some discussion today about, could we try to put together some kind of a scaled down project? I think that could be an $18 million project. Maybe it's something that might be, we have to work. The state knows that we have major things that need to be done here. And we know that we took a step in the right direction by the town agreeing to pay that $500,000 as far as the debt exclusion towards the school and another $500,000 towards the town. But, a big part of that PCG report said we need to have a long-term plan, because otherwise we can't partner with Stanford. It's not fair to them, and it won't be fair to us to say we can't guarantee we're going to be here in 10 years under the current state. So I agree with 100%. We have limitations and challenges, and we have to think about what's our long-term plan, and what do we value in this town. If people still come in and bring their kids here, then we have to have a good school, and a school that has a building that's up to code.
So can I throw something out there? So we have a plan for 5 years because the debt exclusion is covering us for 5 years, right? And we heard taxpayers say, what's the plan after that? Are you going to come back and ask us for more? And and so they're looking for something more, obviously, and that's completely understandable. So, the last time we went to MSBA, I said during the process or towards the end, I said, it felt like, we didn't get pre-approved for the car we were going to buy, right? We went out car shopping and we didn't have necessarily the pre-approved stamp of this is what this town is willing to pay. So if a crazy idea, because I know, and you've heard me say, no, I want to go back to MSBA a million times, but if you were to consider going back to MSBA again, and you think, well, that process does take time, because you have to put in your statement of interest, you have to wait, you have to whatever. So if we were to consider doing that, and if I were to consider to want to put my energy back into that, how many meetings and everything we had, could we get a base of taxpayers to say, well, you know what, this would be reasonable? You know what I mean? Like, we never sort of got that before we went through this process. We sort of assumed the select board had a feel for that, but I'm not sure that they did. Because we found ourselves at the end, and then I think there were some things around the financing where, it might have been iffy as to what the tax rate was going to be and things like that, but it's almost like you need the taxpayers to say, this is what, after the 5 years, this is what we're willing to do. We're willing to do $2 on our taxes or whatever for the next, or we're willing to, or not. I mean, I don't know what it is, but it's like you sort of have to garner that from the base and say, so if you go back to MSBA, know this, that, if you start looking at the things and it's going to be more than $2, like, we're out. And you know what I mean? Or if there's some way to help present that to MSBA from the beginning. Our taxpayers are willing to go here. We have enough interest that tells us that, and I don't even know if that's possible. What I'm saying, though, is I don't think we go back to MSBA. I think we'll be kind of laughed out of the room unless we have some community support that says we are committed this time, but understand these are our limitations, and so how MSBA can you work with us? So could something like that happen? Is that a possibility of maybe forming focus groups or something in the town with just sort of like the renovation committee came together of people who may have voted no for the price tag on the last one, who are committed to the school, yes, do want to see it here long term, but want to figure out and then talk to other people about what people could handle.
I think there's a couple points in that, because you always hear about the divisions between the town and the school. I don't think there's near the divisions people think. The problem is, the school is the number one thing in the town. I think most people agree with that. It's not the only thing.
Right.
The roads, all the 7 buildings they own, the fire trucks, I mean, it's the town plows and everything, it's all part of it. And I think that's where a lot of people were feeling with new school and $19 million that it was gonna cost us, like, all our eggs are going in one basket. So even though school's the most important thing, you're sacrificing everything else for that. And now again, a lot of that is my view. So again, that may not be a view of everybody, but a lot of people I talk to, that's where I understand. They want the school, they're for the school, and it's the number one thing, but it's not the only thing. So what the renovation committee and Tom and talking to people that had some expertise, we were here hoping to be able to advise and help get things going and maybe put in some time. But you're right, we can't be in charge of these projects. We don't have the expertise. But I think I'm looking, Tara, to answer your question. I think the issue is do we need a new school or we need major renovation? And I think that's where there's going to be a lot of controversy. My opinion is I think we can have major renovation and get by with this, and that's why it's going to be hard because a lot of it would be piecemeal. But I think we can get the state, every other year or whatever, chipping in some. I think they will, with the merger, which I think is extremely important, I think we will get the money for the roof. I think if you went back to the MSA,
MSBA.
It's MSBA, thank you. I think they would cover like new windows, new other things that we can go. I do believe the foundation is good, and just, I'll bring it up now so we don't have to go over it again. I talked to Chetty and Aaron, and we are gonna fix the water problem to the gym area down here. It's just Chetty's obviously been busy. That's what he does for a living, and summer is the time to do it. He said if school starts and we don't get done, we want to get done before school started, we'll do it on a weekend, whatever we gotta do. But it's those little things, they're not the big things. The big thing's gonna have to come from state money. And I think the town did 2 things. They voted for the merger, and I think they're overwhelmingly are behind it, and they gave up $500,000 to get started. But I think we went back and said new, and we're looking for a lot of money, I think it would get voted down again. I think if it says, hey, we can save this renovation, and we, maybe 5 years from now, have another, or 2 years from now, have another vote, I think they'll gradually do it if they see some progress. I don't know, what do you think, Ed?
I agree with you, almost right to every word. The other thing is a good point that Carl McKinney brought up was that there's $54 million. I read the same article he did. It's coming available for school mergers. If this clicks into be a big thing with the state, the merger with Stanford, we may be eligible. We may see some money come our way out of that pool.
I agree that money's there. They're telling us we need to look at a bigger merger, just so you know. That's what the state's telling us.
What's that?
They want us to look at all of our merger options. They want us to look at, for example, they want us to look at Florida's the same size as Stanford, basically.
Yeah.
Why are we not exploring a merger with Florida? Well, because I would say Florida doesn't want to do it, but I mean so that's part of the next part of the study is to look at all different options. You certainly want to know why aren't we talking to North Adams? Why aren't we talking to other towns in the North Berkshire School Union? And some of them aren't even interested in it, but there's certainly going to be a push to explore those options. Like there was an article in the Eagle this week about Southern Berkshire, talking with Berkshire Hills. Now, the key piece of that wasn't really mentioned that Southern Berkshire was one of the districts that was looking at our merger because they were on the Connecticut border, most of those towns. So there was supposed some conversation about are they looking to go and discuss an interstate merger with some towns there. I don't know exactly the towns' names, but I found it very interesting to see that they are now going to enter into talks with Berkshire Hills, which is a bigger district with Great Barrington involved with it. So, and that's really what, obviously you have this Berkshire County Educational Task Force who jumped, I think, a little too fast with their recommendations last year, but that's the point that we're getting from the state, is they want us to explore. I think if we do explore those mergers and we decide to do something like that, then yes, we'll get some money, but they want us to make sure we're exploring all our options before they'll let us have any of that money. So, just as a point of reference. That's all.
And it's uncertain if you're merging with another state, if they want to throw Massachusetts money at you know, something that's gonna merge with another state. So you know, there's that possibility that even if they have that money available, it may be just for schools that are merging within Massachusetts, like, as an, you know. But, you know, I'm glad to hear your feedback around the MSBA thing, because I sort of feel like there's no sense in doing any application for that if there's no community will at all. And Ron, did you want to speak to that? 'Cause you brought-
No, and it's what we talked about this morning. You know, everybody has a plan, right? And I talked about a 5-year plan. You know, we talk about doing this, doing that, but think about one thing. We talk about that $500,000, right? That's earmarked for the school. You know, the school is not ADA compliant. So do you know what it would really cost if someone had to pick up the phone and say, listen, Clarksburg School, I'm not in line here. It'd be millions of dollars, correct? If I'm wrong, you gotta have some kind of an elevator here. You gotta set up here where you get a kid that's challenged. How are you gonna get upstairs from the cafeteria upstairs, downstairs? Your bathrooms need to be taken care of. You said it last 2 weeks ago at the informational meeting. You know, even if this merger was to go through, didn't go through, there's things that this school has to do. There's a lot of things. So, you know, I look at, you know, we talked about this morning, $500,000 investing good money in a situation where, does it make sense? Or do we look at the bigger scale things, where we want to be in 5 years or 10 years as a community? Do you want to have a elementary school, which I think is, I've always said this, and it's like the little, I call it the gem of Clarksburg. It is it attracts families. You know, I know we have an older clientele of people in town, but they pass, and young people are coming here with families. They're investing in our community. So we've got to, as a group, got to come up with an idea or a plan where we want to see ourselves 5 years, 10 years from now. We're really got to make that decision.
Right, and I think the point is, and after 5 years, when this is done, we're going to be going back to the town asking for another something, I'm quite sure, because otherwise, you know, and then there's
There's always got to be a 5-year plan.
Right,
right.
So after this year, we still got to have a 5-year plan.
right.
After the next year, there's a 5-year plan.
Right.
You got to be adding to that continuously. Now, yes, you can say, okay, now we have a 10-year plan and go that far. But the 5-year needs to be the most current. You can put that wish list thing out there 10 years.
Correct.
And it could stay out there 10 years for 20 years. But that 5-year plan doesn't stop. That's where everybody's making a mistake. That 5-year plan doesn't stop. Because after the 5 years, when we still have a 5-year plan and things to do, that's when you're gonna be able to go back to the town and say, geez, we've done great, look what we've done, look what we still wanna do.
So would it be reasonable to, we talked about clerk of the work or whatever, a project manager. Can we put out to bid for somebody to make us a plan? Because clearly we keep talking about we need a plan, we keep talking about we need a plan, and there's no plan to date.
Jen, you remember the master plan right from North Adams, and that's something, you know, as a small town, you still need to come up, you should have something in the works, you know, if you don't have anything,
Right.
you gotta start with something.
But we leave every,
Master plan?
No. My master plan, I have a master plan in my brain, but, no, we'll all be here in 5 years,
but we leave every meeting saying, yeah, we need a plan, yeah, we need a plan. And we all walk out going, yep, we need a plan. We all go to bed at night, we wake up in the morning, we
Yeah.
still need a plan.
Right.
So we need to hire somebody who can write a plan, because clearly none of us can do it. I mean, maybe you can do it, but you don't have time. I can't do it even if I had time.
I like your idea about, I think one of the strengths of the work we just did at PCG was their focus on bringing all stakeholders into the process. I mean, they interviewed residents, they interviewed from both towns, they interviewed school staff from both towns, they interviewed the administrations from all the districts that are involved with both towns. They interviewed everybody that could possibly be part of a group was asked to come in and offer their services. And we had a lot of people that were involved. And I think, you know, what to me was a big part of that process was that when we had our meetings about it, the conversations for the most part were positive, focused on the facts. There were some current concerns brought, which there should be concerns brought up. So I think that's something that going forward would be, I think that's a good idea to see, you know, what do we, like right now we're trying to put together information for the debt exclusion projects at the school. Like the funding sources need us to tell them what are we going to spend that money on from the school's end of it. Now, we're in the beginning stages of that, so we don't have quotes or anything, but we're trying to give them an idea of what that is going to cost the school and the town to fix the most urgent needs in the building, which we've identified as obviously ADA compliance, the security of the front entrance, which is probably going to be more than $35,000 because of the age of the building and the things that need to be done to improve the main office structure and everything that goes along with that safety piece. Plus, we have other areas around the building where we've just purchased some cameras, some security cameras that we haven't had before. So to develop that, that's a kind of a daunting task, but we need that plan in place to get the money released and, like Jim said, get the necessary bonding and financial documents need to be in place for any of this type of work we're doing. So those are key points, and I think having people involved so they can, we'd be completely transparent, because that was the one thing I think I've heard about the other processes. I don't think anything was done intentionally or deliberately. I think we've learned how to do it better. That's all. So I think that was a good model for us to follow in terms of the way PCG came in and conducted their study, because it showed us that, we all talk about getting people involved, but that was a good plan of how to get people involved, so that they're all feeling like they're part of the process. And that's going to make people buy into it rather than feeling like there's 10 people up in the, at the school making a plan that they're not involved with. So we need to do that. I think that's a good idea, maybe to ask some people to be involved in an ongoing discussion about what does the town want to do to support the school, and what kind of projects are we focused on, and how are we going to get there? And what is our 5-year plan? What is our 10-year plan? So, because you may have some residents say, my 10-year plan is that we don't have a school. So we want to hear from them too. But I don't necessarily agree with that. I also want they live here. We want to hear everybody's opinion about what is our best plan going forward.
So then, I guess, to have a real concrete, actionable step coming out of this, and here's the responsibility question that Tom brings up. So is it the town who would pay for and put out to bid somebody to do the study of a facility plan of developing that? Or does the school pay for someone to do a facility plan long-term? But clearly, I think we're all saying we need to pay someone, put out to bid, someone to do a facilities plan for us. But we still get stuck on what Tom brought up, which I think is a valid thing, is who pays, who does even that?
I agree, but we need to budget for certain things.
Right.
And again, I since I've been here, it's a couple of years, but, they always, I heard, school against town against the school. We're all together, because we all work together to the betterment. The only way you're gonna get anything accomplished, it's the school's it's the town's responsibility. It's a piece of inventory of the town. This is owned by the town. So the town, again, as I said, the importance of this new administrator coming in is we've got to look at how we go about doing business each and every day. So if it means that we've got to appropriate funds and budget for a line item for whoever, we need to do those things, because we know it's in front of us. It's not going away. It's one of those things that's not going to go away. It's something we need to be. We said it this morning. I want us to be more professional in how we go forward with our things.
We hire somebody to put this plan together.
Yeah.
We have $500,000 for the town,
Right.
$500,000 for the school. This person's gonna do the plan for both.
Right.
The
Absolutely.
money will come out of part of the 500,000 for one,
Yeah.
and 500,000. The money is there.
Right.
Let's use it,
Yeah.
so we have a better plan.
Right, because it's
That's
like,
where we gotta move
That's where it should come. We gotta
forward.
plan,
The
make a
money
plan.
is there, that money is gonna be used. Planning is everything.
right, you
If
can't
you
make
start
anything happen
Build a
without
house
the plan.
without a set of plans,
Right.
guess what you're gonna have?
Right. Absolutely.
A piece of shit.
Then the other side of that same coin, when you go out there and you talk to these people, a lot of them, why are we spending money on another study? It's the first words out of their mouth.
Not a study.
Even though that we need it, I agree with you 100%.
It's a plan.
But there are X amount of people out there who don't like throwing money away in their minds to do a study that,
It's not a study.
Yeah, I-
that in the end amounts to nothing. In other words, we spent all that money on the school merger, and all that money was gone.
And that's why in life you have to watch how you word things.
You do,
Yeah,
very much so.
and I agree with Tom, a plan is not a study. A plan is action.
Yeah.
It's part of the action.
But it's
And,
still.
but
needs
let's
to be
say it has to
carried
come
out.
across like that. It can't be, oh, we're gonna plan and have like a study. It's gotta
You know,
be.
say for the PCG plan they gave us, for the recommendation plan was having a long-term, having a long-term plan, having a full-time business
Well, I agree with
administrator,
it.
having
I'm just saying
and
is
having
that there are X amount of people out there.
I know, but they're also saying people don't go to the meetings either, by the way. That's
Right.
not- So, I
True.
mean, so the people are gonna be negative no matter what. So I don't mean to,
Yeah.
I'm not devaluing their opinion.
Right.
But, the one thing I
Right.
will say is that when we had the meeting at end of July, I'm grateful for the 76 people that showed up, but where were the rest of the people?
Oh.
That they should have been there. So I mean,
Oh, possibly.
and
And I'll
I'm
tell
saying
you
that right
why
to
they
them, you
weren't
wanna
there,
get
Ken.
there and be part of the conversation.
Not to interrupt you, but I'll tell you why they weren't there. Because it isn't costing any money yet. There's the big,
You're right.
when it comes down to the money, they will be there. And maybe something that is, like you say, not much lower scale, that, hey, this is not such a bad deal after all. And they'll relook it. I go back to the original vote, when we got voted down for the school project. Even with the 2/3 majority, the second vote, we still only got 40-something votes difference between it actually going to the ballot at the second 2/3, when we needed 2/3. The first vote, we just missed by one vote. To get the 2/3, the second time we got beat probably by 40 votes, not even coming to the 2/3. So there are an amount of people out there that still believe that the school is a good option. And I say, I would be willing to put it in 50-50 category in this town right now. It's 50-50.
I'm encouraged by the last two votes
Yeah.
in the conversation that said
Yeah.
we value the school, we want to have a school, so let's develop a plan that's going to say this is what we need to do. So I think we have the basis for that with some of the work that we've done over the last 7 months or so. We also have some more work to do. So I think it involves making sure the school is a long-term part of that process.
Well, I mean, just quickly, like Tom said, we each have, not to divide, but we each have the 500,000 where we can take what to me is a small amount to pull in to come up with a plan to move us forward rather than sitting on $500,000 or picking away at it and not really having that ultimate end goal to show the town. This is what our plan is, this is what we've accomplished, this is what your money paid for. And I think that's significant to people, as opposed to, well, we kind of just decided we're gonna do chairlift over here and we're gonna put security you know what I mean? Like, instead of us, when we aren't educated in that, I'm not at least, to know and make those decisions, to have someone who is, I do think that's money well spent.
Well, and it's a case of a well-thought-out plan, save money at the end.
Yeah, true.
Because
And
we're
we're
not
not going
backtracking
back.
and redoing things that we may have already done, not knowing what we were getting into, and things like that.
We're not really going back and asking for more money. We already got
in
that.
the last couple of weeks. I think that the other piece about a good plan with a single person or a single small committee is that the communication comes from one place to all folks in the town and everybody hears the same thing. So I got to go to the Council on Aging meeting they had last week, and what I'm really hearing is, I think in their hearts, and in my heart, they believe we're going to forget about the elders of the town. And they see it happening already because they're at risk now of losing the senior center that they were so excited about when they got it. And there were folks there saying we have to figure out how to think about new ideas. We talked about the notion of making it a senior center / community center, but that can only happen with the involvement of more community members. They're down to maybe 8, 9 regular folks who show up. They've lost half their group that started that community center originally. So we started very briefly, what would it take to have the school support the elders and the elders support, what the school could bring? And I offered a number of ideas, because we've tried them before and we've been successful before with students and teachers participating with things that support whatever in the town could happen. And I think if there were a way to continue those conversations, but also, again, with a plan and the same information going out to everybody as opposed to the rumor mill, fearful of what might happen is what stirs everybody up for the wrong kinds of votes. And so I just don't want us to forget that piece. I think that's an important
It
voting
is.
part of the town that is still feeling scared and uninformed and worried about what their future is as well.
The sad part about senior centers, not to change the subject, but 4/5 or at least 2/3 are not Clarksburg residents
Right.
that are participating.
Right.
Probably
Well,
1/3 of the people who actually go there are
Are not
Clarksburg
from
residents.
Clarksburg.
2/3 are not.
And that was
So, I
their
mean-
thought, so, I sort of threw it out to her. There are enough residents in town that are my age group,
Oh, yeah.
that even if we gathered
not
ourselves
quite
together
ready,
and we donated to one
Yeah.
day a month, nobody would have the full responsibility of it, but
Right.
we've gotta figure out how to get that stuff organized.
So, to go back to this idea of putting out to bid, a person who could put together a plan, what's our next action step so that we leave here knowing that something's in the works? Yep.
Let's, I'll look into who set up this strategic plan at Williams. Laura might be able to help out with that too, working with the project and planning group. And we'll get some names or some people that we could ask, give us a price.
And if we have the procurement queen now, or the bid process, then does that get generated? Can we, but if it's a town, again, this is, because it's not just for the school, it's for the roads and everything, right?
I would do a
So,
plan for everything.
right,
Why
but
not?
who generates, you can find people as potential whatever, but there's a whole process of how you put something out to bid. So who's, with
Request
that,
for proposals.
a request for
Yes.
proposals, I'm gonna learn the language. So would Jen do the request?
RFP.
The RFP, oh yeah, okay. So Jen, I don't wanna assign anything, I'm just asking, could Jen do the RFP? Is that okay with the town? Does the
Yeah,
town
the
have to
thing-
vote
the
on
thing I-
it?
the thing- The thing I would do is, before we go any further, I put something on the agenda for the select board to
Okay.
make sure the select board's on board with this.
Okay.
You're going back to this debt exclusion money. I know on the town side, all $500,000 is gone.
Yeah.
We got roads, we got things we've got to address, and that was a big thing for a lot of people. They went to that meeting, they wanted to know what we were gonna do to improve the infrastructure. Not only roads, there's culverts that are in bad shape, there's a ton of things, and, I hear what you're saying, but I know on the town side, that 500,000 is spent.
Well, the town said, I think we should, out of our side of it, then we should certainly have a plan for how we're gonna spend our $500,000.
I think the town's missing the boat if they don't make a plan other than the 500 that they already spent. That is foolish. The town should have a plan for this place, it is our building, and the town should have a plan for our infrastructure. If you're gonna do piecemeal again, we're getting a half-assed job again. You're wrong.
Well, listen, I'm just.
I know what you're saying, the money's spent. We could spend that $500,000 here like that.
Well,
Let's be realistic.
Let's
have
be
a plan
realistic.
which is
If I went, if
more
that night of
efficient.
that debt exclusion vote, and I said, well, we're gonna take X amount of dollars and we're gonna spend it on a study.
I didn't say study. Now you're saying study because you want to cause conflict.
Well, not.
Think about this for a minute.
Listen, that's the last
We
thing I want
want
to cause is
A
conflict. but-
strategic plan put together. Do we have anything like that? And it's like, okay, and don't get me wrong, Kyle's a great guy. You're listening, okay, what's his need? Bang, okay, we need this, and we need that, and we need this. But there's nothing formal there either.
I agree,
Why
but
don't we have anything formal? I don't work at a place like that. This town seems to think they can. I've been bringing it up for 2 years. When are we gonna just finally say, okay, let's get somebody in here, we have the money, and you can bring it to the board, the select board, and everything we have to do. We got no plan. I don't care if you say the money's spent. I could spend the money in this school. Oh, I gotta spend. Okay, what's your plan? What are the most important? How are you gonna prioritize this? What goes first? What goes second? Oh, that comes down to, because you don't have a plan, comes down to the squeakiest wheel.
Most votes, still most
But
votes.
perceptions, a lot of this, I think that's what Ron's saying. The perception is, why a lot of townspeople voted for the $1 million is because, okay, we're gonna get some roads and other things fixed, we're gonna get the school fixed. Now, if we take some of that $500,000 and put it into the school, now they're saying, oh, I voted for $500,000
But it's
for
not
roads and bridges, and I
No,
put
it's
$500,000 for the
It's
school.
a town
But-
strategic plan, and the
Yeah.
school is part of the town, we own this building.
But that's what
Okay, so if
500.
they want to say, oh, okay, you're taking part of their 500,000, no, we're taking part of that 500,000 for the town's strategic plan. We're taking part of this 500,000 for the school
Yeah.
strategic plan.
And that's what I'm
Okay,
saying,
and it may only
perception-wise, that would
be
work.
5,000 each.
Right.
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 I mean, we're splitting hairs, and to say, well, again, you're putting that division in, Ron. Oh, well, the town doesn't need it,
No, but that's
but
what
the
we'll get,
school does.
but that's
There
what we'll
goes
get it
the division
together,
again.
Tom. That's what we'll get it together, if part of that money came out of both, and
That's
it
what
was
I
one
said.
strategic plan for the town and the school. Now you got both involved. If just the money comes out of the town for the school, it's gonna be red flags
I
again.
sat there in that meeting and the treasurers all said, what is the plan? We
Yeah.
want to see it in rewriting, we want to see it prioritized. None of that's happened yet. That's what I said. And they're right, I'm not arguing the point, they're right.
But the question is, can the town then put in matching funds from the school, 500,000, or I know you said 500,000 is
They don't
gone,
have to.
come one
Money's
somewhere, and come up with a plan, and a
Yeah,
person that
First
can
of all, you
do
gotta see
it.
what it would cost to put something together.
Does anybody have any idea whatsoever what we're looking at for a cost for someone to write a plan?
So when we did a feasibility study, probably in '98 in North Adams for the schools, just a feasibility study, it was close to $100,000.
But that was for MSBA,
Right.
Right.
and that's a
That's not
whole
what this is.
caboodle of
But
all
it
kinds of
was-
stuff.
It was still a feasibility study that we used to build into our
Yeah.
strategic plan.
And it's something to look into, you know, you gotta have figures, you gotta have some kind of a point to know where it's gonna cost you, anyway.
So,
And that's probably about right. 100 grand for North Adams, 10 grand for Clarksburg. Dollars and cents, percentage. And that's probably right.
Yeah, if you figure out the total cost of the projects, I mean, how much was the
Cost of
school alone?
everything. What we draw on for taxes, they have businesses there, they
Yeah.
have, we have what, 2 or 3? I mean,
But
the
that was hard.
percentage, it's probably gonna be about 10 grand. I mean, I could be wrong, but like everybody's saying here, just put it out the bid.
Right.
That don't
Until we
cost
put
us
it out
anything.
there, we won't know.
That don't cost us anything.
right.
And when we first started,
And you do
one of
need
the,
the
after our first
You need
meetings,
the support.
you mentioned we need a plan.
Yeah,
I spent some time trying to come up with a 5-year plan.
yeah,
And I remember I brought it in the second meeting and we went over it a little bit.
Yeah.
But then, of course, the 88 wasn't on that plan.
Right,
right.
And things changed. And then it was, how much does each one of these cost? And it was like impossible.
Right.
Because we didn't know where the money was, how much was, what's gonna change the priorities. And that's why Tom says, it's always a changing 5 years. The 5 years
Right.
stays out there because this now becomes priority. It's gonna go from year 5 to year 2
Right.
or something. But that's what you need, somebody to do that. It obviously was beyond
Well,
me.
didn't just somebody the other night come, when I was out here, somebody came and they did a handicap study?
I think the ADA commission has been,
Right. So, I mean, pretty soon you're gonna get some paperwork telling you what the results were, right?
well, that's the group that's put together by the town, it's mostly school parents, I believe, or.
Oh, it was?
school.
Okay.
I mean, it was started in the spring, and
Oh.
the school, Tara did a great job of, soliciting interest from, to help fill that committee. I know
Yeah.
Carl also did some of that
Right,
work
yeah.
too, so that committee has met a couple of times, and one of the focus areas is obviously the school because of the ADA compliance issues here, so,
But wasn't there a state lady here, wasn't there? the
oh,
other
I
night?
don't know.
I don't know.
Somebody, was there somebody I didn't recognize, and she seemed to be talking like
You know what's going on.
they were telling her everything that,
Good.
basic information, so I think she was a representative of somebody,
That's good.
not town.
I mean, yeah, we need to have some, there's certainly, by having that group together,
Yeah.
that's a group that can help us hopefully get some financing too, but.
Right.
That's-
So you build that, I mean, whoever this magical person is that accepts the RFP and bid, I mean, they would probably put that in the plan, and then you come up with a grant and you go, oh, well, that's taken care of, so boom, check that off. I mean, it's not as if you
Correct.
still don't need a plan.
Correct.
It's in the plan as one of the elements, and we're should be constantly trying to find other sources of revenue beyond that 500,000 anyway, so, but it's that roadmap. So can we go to the select board and say, can we put out an RFP to hire someone to come up with a long-term plan for the town,
Right.
which includes roads, buildings, facilities, everything?
That's something this town's never had, and they need it moving forward. I said that today. It has to be, you have to have some kind of plan in place, some kind of, where we see ourselves again, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. You gotta have it. You just,
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
You can reach out to Berkshire Regional Planning,
yeah,
and they may have a program where they will send people out and help you with that. And they search the grants that will cover those things.
yeah. They work a lot with the planning board now, and
Yeah.
we just had a grant, $15,000 with Berkshire Regional Planning,
And there is a municipal ADA grant out there right now.
yes, I have the
Disabilities
grant on my desk, and we started to go through it.
Yeah, that one
In
sounds
fact,
good.
you called me, you told me about it. Yeah.
Yep, that, I was given some advice.
Did you find a grant writer?
Huh?
Did you find someone?
Well, hopefully, the person we hire has grant writing abilities. And if not, we're gonna have to invest maybe in a part-time grant writer, so.
The advice we were given by the organization putting that grant out
Yeah.
was to break up the projects into individual projects.
Yeah.
Don't do it as a lump sum.
Yeah, there was two grants. One was a planning grant, and one was an actual project grant.
And he said, if you say you have a project for the school and it's for whatever, putting in a handicap bathroom or whatever, and you have several different projects like that,
Yeah.
break them up.
Yeah.
Because they're more likely to give you smaller amounts because it's highly competitive.
Yeah, I was at the last ADA meeting, and they really didn't have any kind of focus. They're just going all over. And so what I instruct them to do is make the school their top priority. Okay, so let's address the issues at the school. And that's the number one priority. Let's try to get some free money if we can. So that's what they're doing. If you see them here, that's the direction I asked them to go, was school first. You know, senior centers is in pretty good shape, but the school really needs to be, the attention should be here at the school. So that's where I directed them to focus on.
So if we had a timeline right now, the next select board meeting is when?
This next board meeting is next Thursday, so I can probably get that on the agenda
Thursday?
to address it.
And then so just to play this out, so they would vote on whether or not.
We would
or no,
vote
they
to
can't.
whether to have a master plan put in place and to, that's how I'll word it. And I'll speak to it, and if any individuals would love to come and speak to it, you're more than welcome. But I can put that on there, we can get the ball rolling, you know, if I have the consent of the select board.
Right now, it isn't gonna cost anything.
No, it's not gonna cost anything, but, right,
We'd like to
you
put it
an
on our
RFP out,
Right.
that's all, and that's how I'll
See where
word
it-
it.
We'll make our next step from there.
Right.
So then if they voted yes,
Yeah.
next Thursday,
Yeah.
then are we all saying, and are you
Well, I
accepting
guess Jen will
put
have to
out-
take the bull by the horns for a little while,
Time
but,
marking until you get it in.
yeah, and hopefully we'll have somebody in place within the next 6 weeks, I hope.
Right.
6 weeks?
And I don't know, it's wishful
See, be
thinking.
careful what,
Hey, it's wishful thinking.
I have to say something.
ask these questions.
I had the pleasure of working with Jen,
Yeah.
for a lot of years on the city.
She knows her stuff.
If anybody can get the job done, it's Jen. When it had to be done, she got it done.
Second that.
Yep, you stuck with it, and that's why she stayed here so long. She did well.
So does it make sense to draft up some RFP language, kind of like we did with the Interstate Merger Committee, just some ideas around a short-term vision and maybe some job responsibilities of the person who's going to develop this plan so that you have something concrete, you know, to bring to them? Is there a benefit
Well,
to doing
I
that?
think right now, I think it's just get their blessings on going, go to merger for a plan and go into a request for proposals to see where this is gonna cost us. It's a step process, it's, you know, so.
And DQB says developing a short-term plan for how to spend the debt exclusion money, and the long-term plan is, you know, how to fix all the issues in our building in our town. So I mean, having, like you said, an immediate plan for the next 5 years, because we have this money available to us, and then a plan that goes beyond that to say, well, how are we gonna address all the issues in our school and our town for that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they'll probably do some type of a population study again. Because the old adage here is, we're all old in Clarksburg. I hate to tell you,
Okay.
I got 5 brand newborns
Right.
in my neighborhood that I haven't seen in a kid trick-or-treating in 10 years. I had 5 kids this year, and there's 5 brand new newborns. About 8 houses in his neighborhood too, he lives right next to me. Of the 6 houses that sold, all of them have small children. All of them. I didn't see anything that sold to an older age group.
Right, I'm sure
I
the
didn't, I really
motivation
did.
as a school.
I can give you
other
names
things
of
coming into the
houses.
school.
Well, the town has that information, I mean, every year they do a census.
Right,
Yeah,
but I mean,
the clerk has that
but
Yeah,
the,
the
but
information
the
is
information
there.
that's put out
See if
there
it's
all the
changing.
time is, oh, we're old, we're all elderly population in Clarksburg. That's changed a little bit in the last 10 years.
And there is a new census coming out, 2020, that's before we get all the
Right,
information.
they have a really,
I mean, if you just think in our one little neighborhood about, you just count. We haven't had little kids like that here in years.
there's none in ours.
Not on your street,
No.
but in your neighborhood there are.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying.
There's
it's-
Clark, there's a girl next door to me, there's one at the Bazillion House, brand new baby, and another one coming.
That's also part of the plan that, I can't mention where I work, even though you all know, but we get around ADA, which is a sad thing to say, because we always do small projects piecemeal. And sometimes when you do a huge project, and if it's what, a third of the cost of the school, or whatever, then you have to do everything all at once. And I don't know if the town can afford to do that. So I'm just saying, all that has to be kept in mind, that it is a way, again, not to get around, but to fix things all the time. And there's one section that we just put in, all ADA bathrooms. So it's not that we're avoiding complete, it's just we can't do the whole building. It's impossible. We don't have enough money. So we just keep that in mind, like you could do possibly a lift or elevator. I don't know, elevators are a lot of money. I don't know if a lift, we started looking into it, and I don't know if it's feasible or not. But if it is, lifts are, $400,000, you might be able to do that. I don't know.
We had a lift here before.
Yeah, well, we did, and so I don't know the new regulations, but that's all stuff, obviously, that this planner people have to look into and keep in mind that it might work that way.
You know, and the other thing too is when we talk about the old renovation committee, the new school. Oh, renovated school, wasn't a new school, renovated. But the reason how we got to those figures were, we couldn't just fix the building, you had to increase the educational aspect of the school at the same time.
Yeah.
So you needed the computer labs, you needed a new lab, science lab, you needed these things that made the education part of it better, not only the building. So it boomed up, and that's why we got accepted. If we had cut a lot of that stuff out, we may not have gotten accepted.
Right, they're not gonna put their money into
Right.
a building that doesn't, and it's about equity, it's about other kids in Massachusetts and other places do have that.
Right.
Therefore, when you are putting money into a building, you should make sure that those children have the same thing that others are afforded as well. And that's why that measure is in place.
And our engineer, how many times did she tell us that? I can't remember her name.
Right,
Margot?
Margot, yeah, the architect, yeah.
She, constantly, we
Right.
have to show an improvement in different type of classrooms, like cluster style, all this stuff. We never even heard of before, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we're gonna have a cluster classes now and all this and that, but that's the way education is now. And
Well, and even moving forward, we had a professional development not that long ago, and her whole focus was about teaching to the jobs the kids are going to have now
Yeah.
in 15, 20
Right.
years. Everything will be electronic.
Yeah.
Everything
Oh, yeah.
will be computerized. And,
Yeah.
again, if you don't give them a head start with that, they're already behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
So that was another piece of those plans,
Right.
with a lot of technology.
that's how it got blown up, the price.
Yeah,
So when people say, oh, it's big green
so we
pie in the
can't
sky
say,
here.
I went to school and it was good enough, you can't say that anymore.
Yeah.
Just real quick, going back to what Mr. Bona said about earmarking some funds. Should this governing body give the school union officials the okay to use part of that 500,000 for a feasibility study or a strategic plan?
One thing I say about the good part of the timing is the select board meeting is next Thursday, we're meeting again the following Thursday, so we certainly, I think the timeline at least is there, we're not waiting another month to meet, so we have, I think, a plan in place to have to be discussed with the select board, we can bring it back here
And I
in
think
2
you also need
weeks.
to figure out who has the authority over that money, because it's town money, I believe. It's not, in other words, not money from our school budget, so I don't know.
But they're asking us for a plan for the money, so I think this could be part of that plan.
Okay.
We've been asked to give a list of what's gonna be used for, but I think this is a good idea of how to decide that, because you're coming to a bunch of people and saying, do you wanna spend the money? How do we know?
We don't know.
We're not the experts on that, so having a person that comes in that says, here are your biggest, like we've said, ADA compliance is a big issue. So is the security of the building, I mean, the roof is, that's bigger than $500,000, so, I mean, so, you know, what is our, I think kind of having this person come in that we asked to look at the school, develop a plan for us, that means we're gonna spend the money wisely instead of just spending on what we think is best. Even though we have our opinion, doesn't mean we don't have that background.
So none of the money's been spent.
No.
So we don't have it yet. But I think that's a good idea, that was a good suggestion, right? To develop a plan and get somebody that has that background, knowledge, expertise to help us with that, so.
Would it be helpful, like Jen was saying though, if we are here to, if we're on board to give our blessing, and we don't have that money, if we gave it now for the town to know that we're in good faith, saying that is what our motive is, with a portion of it as well.
Yeah, you could motion and vote that you're in favor of doing that. So
Correct.
that would be-
Just to.
Yeah, no, it's a good idea, I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Motion it up.
Would you like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we, I don't know how to actually word this though, that this Clarksburg School Committee is in favor, or in supportive of.
Of
In
developing?
support
You're
of,
not committing a dollar amount.
I know, I can't, I know, that's,
Supports the plan to do a request for proposals to hire a planner for the use of the debt exclusion money. And a long
Town
term.
master plan, or town master plan, right?
Okay, town master
and
plan.
using
Town
a
master
portion
plan.
of the 500,000 allotted to the school for that. That is a joint motion, I believe we just made.
I can't make a motion.
What he said.
We don't have Brian read that back.
I don't have it. So the school committee is in favor of, I guess what you're trying to do
Committing
is,
part of our
is-
500,000
and
towards.
is it that you're
our-
trying to give the admin office, Jen, permission to be able to go out and do that? To be able to?
That's not gonna cost anything though.
What I think we're trying to do is recommend to the select board that we're gonna go, we want
That
to.
we're
The
willing
school
to
committee
use part of the
supports-
500,000.
The school
Correct.
committee would support moving forward with a request for proposal for a master plan for the town of
Correct.
Clarksburg. Okay, I would think that's where, I would think it's.
Yes, I mean, it's saying including school improvement, school,
We just wanna send a
school
message.
building.
Yeah,
including school building.
It's all one. But, yeah, that'd be the best way to put that. It just shows that the school committee.
We just want them, yes, we
Yeah,
just wanna
yeah.
send a message that we
Yeah,
understand behind that.
that's important.
Right, so you meet next Thursday, you could say the school board.
Yeah,
As opposed to we have to come back to
Yeah.
them to see if they're still
Yeah.
really on board with it.
Yeah, and if anybody from the school committee would like to attend the meeting to address the board, you're more than welcome. Because I think more the merrier is the better, so.
Is 6 o'clock on next Thursday?
6 o'clock.
Should all be.
Yeah. And Bobby, I don't know if you can have anybody in reference to the council on aging, because we don't know what's going on in
No,
town.
I
And I've got a director that has to be paid, I've got some other things, so.
I think
we
the
have to
thing
do that.
is, you know, the strongest point that came out of there is the same issue we've been talking about. We gotta stop the finger pointing, we gotta figure out how to collaborate, and they need to be included.
Well, that
in the
became a private
conversation.
club over there.
Yeah, I know it did.
Okay.
But they're
Let's,
realizing they can't exist that way. They don't have enough people.
Let's save that for after the meeting, because I have school committee,
I
we
know,
have to
I'm
do this
just
motion,
saying.
please, okay? Let's do the motion.
Sorry about that.
Okay,
Sorry.
the Clarksburg School Committee is in favor of moving forward with an RFP for a master plan for the school building improvements.
A town master.
A town
Town master plan, including school building improvement.
Including. All right,
That's it.
how's that sound?
That sounds wonderful.
Okay,
Thank you.
Clarksburg School Committee is in favor of moving forward with an RFP.
How about supports?
For support. supports moving forward with an RFP for the town master plan, including school building improvements.
For the development of a town master plan.
For the development of a town master.
It's a great.
The Clarksburg School Committee supports moving forward with the forward with an RFP for the development of a town master plan, including the school building improvements. How's that? You couldn't have said it better.
I know.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 6:57.
Turn the camera on.
Second.
Good. All in favor, yes.
All right.